You know, if somebody were to ask me what are the 3 most important components to any successful off-road build, I would tell them wheels, tires, and suspension. And today I'm out here in Riverside, California, where I'm at Icon Vehicle Dynamics to show you guys how they quite literally reinvented the wheel. What is up, you guys? It's your pal Matt McAdam, aka Desert Chief, only on driving lines chasing dust. And today I'm out here in Riverside, California at Icon Vehicle Dynamics / Icon Alloys, which is a shop most of you guys have heard of. They create suspension components and wheels for all kinds of off-road vehicles. And today I'm here to speak with Dylan Evans, who I had on this show about a couple of years ago, and we talked about their suspension components, but we're not going to be talking about suspension today. Today we're going to be talking about a brand new revolutionary product that they just launched on the market for the off-road world, and it is their new beadlock wheel. Now, if you guys don't know what beadlock wheels are, it's basically a wheel that's meant to lock the tire onto the wheel so you don't have a debeading situation if you were to ever go over some sort of surface that would fold the tire underneath the wheel, or slippery surfaces, things of that nature, or if you're airing down to a very low PSI to where you can actually pop the bead off of that wheel. Beadlock wheels have been around for many, many years in the off-road industry, as well as drag racing and other forms of motorsports. However, they've been pretty simple for the most part, and Icon has gone and done something incredibly genius with their new wheels, and I want to show you guys exactly what I'm talking about as we head in there. So let's go in there and see if we can find Dylan. Now, of course, just before I walked in the door, I turned over here and this is what I saw. Check it out, you guys. That's the first time I've ever seen a 2-door Bronco in person. Pretty incredible. This is a little bonus for you guys today. I didn't even think I'd run into this out here. Wow. I can only imagine what they have in store for this little thing. It's probably gonna look completely different the next time I see it. All right, so we're back here in Icon's R&D department, and this place has changed so much since the last time I was here. If you guys watched this series, we were here a couple years ago actually touring the facility and seeing some of the suspension components they have coming out. Really awesome video, so go check that out. I'm gonna put a link here for you guys. But I'm here once again with Dylan Evans from Icon. Dylan, great to see you again. Matt? It's great, man. I'm really excited to see this new product that you guys have coming out. So I'm gonna turn this camera around and let you do all the talking because you're a smart guy with all the answers. So let's do that and then learn all about these new wheels you guys have.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, Dylan, so let us know, what do we got here in front of us?
All right, this is our new wheel. It's based off of a existing wheel called the Rebound. So this one is called the Rebound Pro. And what we've done here is we've come up with some new technology, which is doesn't happen a lot since the wheel was invented. But this is what we've come up with. We've come up with a system for retaining the bead and preventing a tire from debeading when you're in a low pressure situation. And it's not necessarily new to do a bead retention, but the method that we're doing it is different. Most people are familiar with a traditional beadlock. Traditional beadlocks have a couple disadvantages. One of them is street legality.
Absolutely.
So one of the reasons that they aren't street legal is because if the bolts fail, the bead leaves the wheel. So that's one of the parameters. And the other one is that they require periodic maintenance. So in the DOT guidelines, anything that requires periodic maintenance is a no. So we've got to avoid that. So what we've done is we've created a way of supporting the back of the bead only when necessary. So the tire is on the wheel in the same fashion with the same profile and sealing profile, and all of that is the same as a regular wheel. But we insert these retention pins behind the bead after you mount it.
Yeah, I was looking at this wheel online, and when you guys first released it this summer, I was just astounded how nobody had thought of this yet. Because again, its genius is really in its simplicity. When it comes to beadlock wheels, I've owned them before. I'm always having to go back and retorque those bolts and make sure that that ring is seated firmly on that wheel.
And then you come out one day and the ring is bulged and a bolt broke,
bolt's
and you're
gone.
like, oh, I could have.
And your tire's completely flat. That would happen all the time. I had beadlock wheels, and no matter how much I torqued them down, the tire was always flat the next morning. And that's just one of the biggest gripes that I have with beadlock wheels, and why I don't recommend running them on street-driven vehicles. But this wheel is a game changer. So I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a closer look at what we're talking about here. So you guys, from all intents and purposes, this is just a regular wheel, but it's got some machined holes in it.
It's kind of a regular wheel. So what we've done is within the guidelines of wheel standards, we've maximized within their standards as much as we can. So we've maximized the width of the bead hump and the height of the bead hump. And then additionally, we also uprated the load capacity. So most wheels in this classification are around 2,800 pound load rating. So what we did is we said, well, what's the load rating of most of the tires that people are running? Because really that's the limiting factor too. You can't exceed the tires load. So we did a little research, and we found that 3195 was a really common load rating for a tire. So we said, well, we at least need to match that. So we rated these at 3,200 pound load rating for the spoke and barrel load rating.
That's about like a load range D, I think, right? Something close to that.
Some of the E's are in that range
they
too.
are.
Depends on the size. Yeah.
Cool. So to walk you guys through this at home, if you're wondering, about beadlock wheels and how they are to install on your vehicle, they're incredibly difficult to install. Most tire shops, won't even put them on for you just because of the legality reasons. So you do have to do them at home for the most part, and it includes having to set the back bead yourself with airing up the tire. When it comes to the front of the bead on the front face of the wheel, you have to literally line up the ring, get all the bolts on there, go in a circle, tighten them down, go in another circle, tighten them down some more, then go back and torque them down with, a small torque wrench. It takes me, somebody who's done this so many times, probably about 2 to 3 hours to do 5 wheels. And I'm assuming with these, Dylan, you don't really need to go through that whole process. It's a lot simpler.
Right. So the retention pin, which is a heat-treated specialty bolt pin, and if you look really close, there's an O-ring here. So this whole O-ring profile and the cavity where the O-ring sits is the same sealing, SAE approved sealing dimensions and classifications that's used in high pressure hydraulics. So this seal is good to about 4,000 psi. And we've chose this one because it's compact. It doesn't compromise the integrity of the pin and bolt, and we know it works. We use it all the time in our shocks. So to mount it, you just thread the pin in until it's flush with the bead hump on this side. Okay, so now when the tire's here, you pop the tire over, the tire's sitting right here, and you're about to put air in it and set the bead. This just keeps, you put it here and it keeps air from blowing out these holes.
Makes sense, yeah.
So you air it up, you put all the pins in that position, you air it up, boom, tire
Bead
pops on. Then you let all the air out, just pull the Schrader core and let all the air out, and then run this in the rest of the way, torque it to the specified torque, and put air back in it. And it's completely sealed.
Sounds simple enough.
Yeah, this is a very secure O-ring profile here, so there's no chance of leaking at all.
Cool.
So the pin is now, the threads are happy, the O-ring's happy, the pin is happy because they're in a loaded, torqued, statically torqued situation, not in a traditional beadlock where, depending on how much you torque it, there's a gap, there isn't a gap, the bolt is semi-loaded.
Right.
When it's semi-loaded, it's in a constant state of flex. And that constant state of flex is what causes fatigue and shortens its lifespan.
And so these, the beauty of these is basically, the way it works is that these bolts aren't ever there's no pressure being put on these while you're driving around
They're
town.
hanging out 99% of the time.
They're just sitting inside the wheel and sitting in air and pressurized air. So it's only when you air down your tires far enough, like, if you're going off-roading or something, and you're going over a flat rock or something that's bulging your tire out, and you're tons of air in the tire, when the inside of the lip of the tire is actually contacting this surface, and that's really the only time it's got load on it.
Correct.
Yeah. So when I first saw these, I got to admit, I thought of like back in the day when we were in high school and we used to just put self-tappers through tires,
with your old steel wheels.
Yeah, exactly.
I knew one guy who would take a steel wheel, he'd sand all the paint off and put salt water on it so it would rust the tire on. That was his beadlock.
And that would keep it from falling off and from spinning on there.
Put tech screws in it.
Incredible. Yeah, and that leaves you with a one use kind of a tire, and it's really not safe. You're damaging the wheel, the integrity of it.
You don't know if your tech screw is going into the metal core of the bead.
So when I first saw these, I was like, well, are they just doing the same thing? And then I looked closer at the animations you guys had. I'm going to try to throw those in this video. And I want to show you guys on this trail grappler right here. This is a Nitto trail grappler. It's a 3517. And I just want to show exactly where this interlock bolt sits when it's in its right place.
When it's in there is right about here.
So it sits just on the inside of that tire.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right there.
And it doesn't really ever contact, or it doesn't have any load on it unless you're aired down far enough to where this sidewall is starting to bulge.
And you've got to deflect the sidewall quite a bit.
Yeah.
So when you look here, the pin is angled at an angle out, and the bead is angled oppositely.
Right.
If you can see there. Right.
I'll try to get a shot of that for you guys.
But in a deflection, this is moving anyways. It's folding this in, and it folds in and lays right on the shank.
Yeah.
So it's distributing the load and not damaging the tire.
Yep.
And we've done testing where we're getting 4 times the force to debead than without this technology, without the interlock technology.
Yeah. So that's amazing. I mean,
and most of the times when you're in a situation, side hilling in a Jeep with really low pressure, and you're on the verge of debeading, you're just on the verge, and you're being really careful because, man, another 100 pounds and that tire is going to pop off.
Right.
Well, we don't have another 100 pounds of tire retention. We have another 3,000 pounds of tire retention.
Completely overkill.
The confidence that you have changes entirely.
Yeah. And I'll tell you guys at home one thing. I've had many beadlock wheels on my trucks over the years, and I'll tell you, I have a very hard time balancing them to the point where I don't even bother anymore. I mean, it's kind of sad, but I just try to line it up as best as I can. And, if it takes more than a certain number of, weights to balance it, I just say forget it, and I just chalk it up to, it's an off-road vehicle, it's not going to have a balanced wheel. Right. But you're not going to have that problem because you don't have to actually center that ring the way that you normally would on a beadlock wheel.
Right.
So it solves so many issues that beadlocks have.
It raise a few questions. So some of the questions we've been asked is, well, it doesn't keep the tire from spinning on the wheel in a high horsepower situation. And that's not the purpose of it. This is a security measure so that you can drive with confidence at low pressure.
Yeah.
But the question I have is if spinning the tire on the wheel was a really common problem with high horsepower vehicles, why don't we have twisted carcasses from the inside spinning?
Right.
And you look at situations where that can happen, dragsters, and dragsters have a double beadlock.
Yeah.
Because they are using it for a completely different purpose. They're using it for
that rotational force.
For the rotational friction of clamping the tire and not letting the so no, it does not prevent the tire from spinning on the rim. Yeah. But especially nowadays with the newer tire technology, I think that was a problem with, remember the old 16.5
Oh
rims?
yeah,
And they had a horrible tire retention bead profile.
Yeah.
And that old profile, they didn't want to stay on the wheel at all.
And funny enough, you mentioned that. I haven't seen that scenario happen other than just one time, and that was in deep snow, and we were aired down to about 2 pounds of air. Right. So unless you guys are routinely wheeling in those conditions with pressure that low, I don't see that being an issue. It's not something you hear about very often. It's more so you hear about somebody who's running off-road pressure, something in the 10 to 12 range, maybe even less if you're a rock crawler, and the tire is just deflected and debeads underneath it, and that's what leads people to say, well, I need beadlocks because I lost the bead on the tire.
Right.
And it's really hard to see the bead when you're out there unless you've got the right equipment to do it. You know, I've seen people use all kinds of stuff, including, you know, ether and
that's not
fire and stuff that none of us should do on the trail, but of course a lot of you guys do. And this just that's another problem that this solves, is you don't have to worry about that. So I'm profoundly impressed by this technology, not only because of how cool it is, because it is very cool, but how simple and genius it is. It's genius, isn't it? Simplicity, and it's really like, it's one of those things where you think like, why has no one thought of this before? You know, so you guys did it, and you guys are the first to bring something like this out to the market, and it's definitely something you guys should be proud of, I think.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, it's been out for just about a month now.
Yep.
And most of the feedback we've gotten has been great, so we're happy about it, and we're hoping that we can help out the enthusiasts and give them a little extra sense of security. Yeah. And confidence when they're off-roading. So let me ask you, right now, this is we're seeing it in like a gray finish and this Rebound wheel. Do you guys have plans to make different styles, different colors and finishes? We do. Okay. Right. So right now we have the Rebound Pro. There'll be the XYZ Pro. So the subsequent designs with different spoke patterns, the technology will be the same. Right. We'll have different spoke patterns with the Innerlock technology, and there'll be the Pro version of whatever that style of wheel is. And currently we've got this style, the Rebound Pro, in a 17. We've got them in 3 colors, and almost all of the common bolt patterns. Nice. So anybody who's got Toyotas, Jeeps, you know, all the Tundras, all the 5-lug, all the 6-lug, patterns out there. So as well as the 8-lug axles, are you guys also planning on making anything like this for UTV? Yeah. So we've got that's the next one to be released, is the UTV, and it's going to be a 15-inch wheel in 2 different widths. So you'll have your standard off-road width and front tire, and a wider one for your rear paddle tire. Nice. So you guys who like to go out to Glamis or the dunes, and you guys run super low pressure in your tires out there, which, you know, most people who have UTVs do that. You don't have to worry about buying a traditional beadlock wheel and having to keep up with the maintenance that goes with that. You can actually run one of these and just basically put it together one time and go out there and have fun every time you go out. So it's awesome. And Dylan, one last thing before we go. I'm sure this is a question a lot of our viewers are going to have. Traditionally, beadlock wheels have not been road legal or street legal, which is why a lot of tire shops don't install them. Are your wheels, these Rebound Pros, are they street legal? Are they DOT compliant? Yes, they're DOT compliant because they meet 2 criteria that a traditional beadlock doesn't meet, and that is they don't require periodic maintenance, and there's no feature that could come off in a failure and allow the tire to leave the rim. So the tire always has to be retained by the rim, and it's in this profile is a normal rim profile in every other regard. So the tire can't leave the wheel, and because these are torqued to a static to avoid the engineering side of it, they aren't seeing cyclical loads, so they won't ever fatigue. Right. So you don't have a fatigue situation, and it's a determined torque situation. Right. And understood. So no periodic maintenance required. So you guys hear that? These are DOT compliant wheels that retain the bead of your tire onto the wheel, and you don't have to worry about, you know, running into an issue with the cops or anything, you know, these days. Except for education, right? So right. That because they've never seen anything like that before, there might be a little confusion for the next few years until people figure out what's going on. Yeah, I mean, as it is, there's so many wheels out there that look like beadlock wheels that I'm sure law enforcement has their heads in the spin trying to figure out if it is or if it isn't. But I think that as
this wheel and this interlock technology kind of grows and expands throughout the world of off-road and the world of vehicles in general, people are going to be a little more privy to it. So Dylan, this is super awesome. Thanks again for spending time with us today and showing us this Rebound Pro with the interlock technology. It's again a game changer, and for everybody at home, I'm sure they're going to be rethinking their wheel decision pretty soon after seeing this video.
All right, thanks.
So yeah, thanks man, appreciate it. Well, there you guys have it. I mean, Icon's always been a leader in off-road suspension technology. They've always got cool stuff coming out, and now they're a leader in the wheel technology when it comes to off-road wheels. And you know what? I know I said it so many times throughout this video, but I am so genuinely impressed by how cool this new interlock technology is on these Rebound Pros. I'm gonna have to pick up a set for myself and try them out, but really it solves a lot of problems for me, and I'm sure it solves a lot of problems for everybody else out there who has a vehicle that's a daily driver. They drive on the streets and they also go out on the weekends to have fun with it. It's kind of an all-in-one thing that we really don't see very often in the off-road world, where we have to make a lot of compromises. This wheel takes care of a lot of things and offers a lot of solutions for us. So I want to thank Dylan and Icon for having me here today. It's always a blast to come by and see these guys. But I want to thank you guys, the viewers, for watching this series. Chasing Dust would not be possible without you guys, so thank you. Please subscribe if you already haven't to Driving Line. All kinds of great videos coming out of this channel. But until next time, guys, it's your pal Matt McAdam, aka Desert Chief, only on Driving Line's Chasing Dust. I'll catch you guys on the next one.